Welcome back, rankers and sinners, if you're still watching this show, because it means you weren't taken up by the rapture last week. And the other big news, apart from the end of the world last week, was, of course, that LinkedIn was valued at $9 billion. Coincidence? I don't think so. I'm not a big fan of LinkedIn. I never have been. I've tried to use it. Someone here said that it's for people with BlackBerries. Maybe they're right. But when it was valued at $9 billion, I think, well, there must be someone using it. I better go and work out how to get some value out of it. All I've ever seen it being used for, though, is pretty much people trying to sell you stuff or people looking for jobs. But I've actually, if you've got a request from me in the last couple of days, it's because I'm trying to understand what the fuss is about. I know a lot of people out there just love it. I even tried to spend money with them, but I've just had no luck at doing that at all. It keeps breaking. Anyway, one of the things I don't see people doing on LinkedIn, though, which they probably should, is under the website section where you can put your company website and your personal website. Why not use some keyword-rich anchor text instead of just having company website, personal website? It's a redirect URL, but you may as well do it. You never know your luck in the big city. It might actually affect your ranking. Question this week from Simon Garlick via Twitter, just asking about geophysical location. And does Google take that into account when it ranks a site? Is it going to rank a site higher if it's closer to its audience? Well, the only reason it probably would be because of load times, not because of its geophysical location. If you've got, say, a .com.au hosted in the US, it really doesn't matter unless it's loading slower than, say, your competition that is hosted in Australia. The physical location of the IP address doesn't really come into it. That isn't to say that if you've got a .com and you're trying to target people in Australia and you're hosted in the US and you haven't got your Webmaster Tools set up, Google isn't going to know that you are trying to actually rank for that audience in Australia. And case in point would be, if we have a look at, say, we've shown you this one before, but if you have a look at MyFind, which is, they still haven't taken my advice, which is the Myer online retail store. There they are in just pages from the web. But if you go pages from Australia, they're nowhere to be found. And that's Myer, one of Australia's largest retailers, and their online contribution. And the reason that they can't be found is because they don't have this set up in Google Webmaster Tools. Site configuration settings. If you've got a .com like myfind.com has and you're targeting paid users in Australia, make sure you tell Google about it or you're just not going to turn up for searches in Australia. Which brings me to another big online retailer, and that is Kmart. If we type Kmart into Google, the first thing that jumps out at us is this horrible looking description tag. It's all over the place. It's full of underscores, things that the user just doesn't need to see. Remember, your description tag is your sales pitch to the user. Now, of course, if someone types Kmart into Google, then this description tag isn't going to matter. But if it's on product pages or if it carries through to other target pages, it is going to matter. The other thing that that's the least of their problems when I look at some of the other things here, though. I mean, have a look at this places page. Now, I'm in Mount Waverley. All these locations here in Google Maps are on the other side of the city. And there's probably a dozen Kmart stores between me and these ones that Google is serving up. And Google does know where I am. They do give me information that's pretty accurate to my location most of the time. Oh, now when I say that's the least of your problems, apparently I've been keeping a few people awake at night. Sorry about that. A lot of people see the show and they see me tell people that they've got a lot of problems with their site and they worry that they have even more, but they don't want to get a site review done in public, which I understand completely. I'm always shocked and amazed that people don't mind having their site reviewed in public. So for the next couple of weeks, and I don't usually flog stuff on the show, and so I'm not going to go into pricing or anything here, but if you are interested in having a site review, we're taking bookings over the next 2 weeks. It's something that we never do. It's something that we don't usually sell, but because of the amount of requests that we've had, we are offering it as a service, but only for the next 2 weeks. You don't have to have it done in the next 2 weeks. You just got to book within the next 2 weeks. And I'll be doing the site review with you one-on-one. We'll do a screencast no matter where you are in the world. We'll take you through the problems that you've got on your site. And I promise not to say, oh, that's the least of your problems. because you'll be a paying customer. And that's all I'll say about that. If you want one of those, jim@stuartmedia.biz. Just email me your details and we will set up a time. No matter where you are in the world or what time zone, we'll work it out. Okay, so if we go to the Kmart homepage, we can see here that there's a couple of different pages. There's actually, or a couple of different sites, I should say. There's www.kmart.com.au and there's also shop.kmart.com.au. Now, large sites like this are going to suffer from what every large catalogue site suffers from, like the JCPenney site that we talked about a few months ago, where you'll have a bunch of catalogues, lots of photos and not much text. And that's really become even more important since the last Google update. We're seeing sites that have got lots of images on a page and not much text getting almost ignored in the search results. So that's something to be aware of. Try to think of ways that you can get copy in amongst the catalogue pages. Why not use things like alt tags? The reason alt tags were originally developed was, back in the early 90s, was so that if people had their images switched off, because on our 14K modems back then, the web was pretty hard to look at if you were downloading images as well. So the alt tags were used to explain what the images were about. There's no reason why you can't use those today. Use the alt tags to describe what the image is about. It's going to help the visually impaired, and it's a legitimate use of keywords around those images. But if we just have a quick look at the code here of this page, we can see that this content management system, .NET Nuke, which I'm not a massive fan of, I've got to tell you, and it's because I continually see things like this, where we seem to have this auto-generated keywords meta tag and an auto-generated description tag, which are exactly the same. And even though Google doesn't pay any attention to the keywords meta tag, we've got .NET Nuke in the keyword meta tag. So that's really ugly and annoying. The other thing down here that we've got a page title at the bottom of the head section. You really want the page title at the very top. It's the first thing Google sees. And Kmart Home doesn't tell the user or Google anything terribly much about the site, except that it's the home of Kmart. Whilst that might be true, what might be better to talk about is that in your page title that you do photo centres, you do tyre and auto service centres, whatever it might be. You can shop online. Put key phrases in those page titles. It's the first thing people see of the site, and it tells Google more about it. Just break up what it is. Signpost for Google what it is you do. That's what the page titles are about. It's about telling Google what those pages are about. If you go and have a look at the online shop, there's some really interesting things here that, on the basis, this isn't a bad layout of a page, right? But one of the things that I hate to see in any site is a bunch of footer links that link out to other sites. Now, in your case, you're doing it for a good reason. You're doing it because these are related sites related to the Kmart business. I get that. But they do not need to be on every page of the site, which they are. And this is shop.kmart.com.au, not www.kmart.com.au. And just quickly on that there are two sites. We've got shop and we've got www. But if we have a look at, in the results here, where we've got shop.kmart.com.au, it hasn't come up in this particular search this time, which is interesting. But shop.kmart.com.au has only got, we'll put shop in here to bring that up, has only got 35 backlinks, whereas Kmart, www.kmart, has got like 9,000 or something. If we just have a look here, where are we? Backlinks. So the main domain has got 9,000, but shop.kmart has only got 34. That's really not enough for such a large, massive site like this. So the reason that I hate these outbound links is because you are leaking what we call link life. And one of the things that really gets my goat is web developers who link back to their own site every time they build a website. It gives me the proverbials. The reason is that unless a web developer is paying for that backlink off your site, or they've given you a substantial discount for putting that backlink on your site, get rid of it. All it's doing is giving them value in Google's eyes. That's we build a lot of websites these days, and we don't put our backlinks on any of those websites. Our job is to get our clients' websites found, not our own. So we actually link to our client sites, not the other way around. And that's the way it should be. If your web developer is doing that, rip that backlink off. But, you know, get rid of these. Put all of these on one About Us page down here. You don't need them on every page of the site. If we quickly go and have a look at this product page itself, this online set-top box, Olin set-top box standard definition, this is really good actually. You've got your full description here in the page title, full description here in the actual URL, and we've got it as one of the first things that we see on the page. We've got a backlink here, a link to it here as well. That's really good. And when you go and have a look at that, and you Google that title, bang, you're number 2. You probably should be number 1 because I'm guessing this guy is selling pretty much the exact same thing. But that's pretty good. The only problem, of course, is that no one is actually searching for that. And that's a bit of a downer, I know. Sorry about that. But they're actually searching for set-top box standard definition or standard definition set-top box. And you can see here, unfortunately, your competitor, Woolworths, is ranking quite well for it. And when you go and have a look at their page that's ranking for that, you can see they've got a number of set-top boxes and they're linking back to every other page in their site off that page. So Google gets to get a good view of what their site is about. And once again, standard definition set-top box, standard definition set-top box, and standard definition set-top box, standard definition set-top box, and standard definition set-top box. So frequency of keywords, placement of key phrases, keyword depth, all those sorts of things, great. You're not getting there at all. You're not even anywhere on that first page. So one of the things you need to address is how you get more copy around those pages, those individual product pages, if indeed you do want to get them found in Google. When you go and have a look at, say, even shopping, for instance, Google Shopping launched a couple of weeks ago in Australia, we can see that once again, Dick Smith is absolutely number 1, and they're creaming it here. They're busting it. So you really need to get your feed into Google of your catalog, have it set up, watch a couple of weeks, we did a show a couple of weeks ago, explains here for you how to do that. And, they're saying it's $29.98, same price point, everything else, and it's easy to buy. Now, you don't seem to be, Kmart Australia does not seem to be in Google Shopping whatsoever, but if we type Kmart actually into Google Shopping, we can see that Kmart US is certainly using the Google Shopping. So I'm assuming it's only a matter of time before Kmart Australia does, but your competitors already are. And this goes for everybody else. Go and check all these things. See what your competitors are doing. See what you're up against. And remember, you don't have to beat Google. You only have to beat your competitor. You only have to go one better than whatever your competitor is doing. And you can see here that Kmart is doing AdWords. Sorry, I'm going to cost you $2 here. Sorry, Kmart. Hopefully that won't break the bank. But, I'm on a page now. I've got a landing page now that absolutely has no relevance to anything that I was just looking at. It's all about clothing. So there's a lot of work to be done there around the Kmart bits and pieces. And look, these problems that we're seeing with the Kmart site, they're not uncommon. They're pretty common for most sites that we come across. Well, except for that whole description tag thing. That was a bit embarrassing. But for everything else, they're fairly common. There's about 56,000 pages in the index. Once again, do that search, and this goes for everybody. Do that search, site, : and this is where you should start everything. Kmart.com.au, of course, if your site is not Kmart.com.au, do not put Kmart.com.au into Google. Kmart.com.au. We can see there we've got 56,000 results. Now, look at this. Online Photo Centre. This is great. At Christmas time, I went and got a bunch of my photographs, put them in a book, and got it all done, got a big photo printed on canvas for my wife for Christmas. Yes, I bought my wife's Christmas present from Kmart. Get over it. But their photographic service is absolutely sensational. I had no idea. This is the sort of stuff that should be getting promoted online. I noticed that you've got some like buttons and those sorts of things on your product pages. And we've got share this item down here, which is great. but the photo stuff is absolute killer. And I had no idea, except to someone who works here, said at the time, Kmart does photos. And I was doubtful at the time, but they were great. But you can't find that anywhere online unless you're very specific about Kmart. Like if you type any phrase in associated with getting your photos printed, developed or whatever, I've found it really hard to find Kmart coming up in the searches. And to me, that's an obvious winner for you. But do that search. Everybody, make sure that the number of pages here that comes up in the results is reflective of what you actually have on your site. If it's too low or too much, then you do have a problem. And we'll see you next week. Thanks very much. Bye.